What's up guys, today I'm going to be going over the first animation review of a game, and that game is going to be Spider-Man PS4, also known as Marvel's Spider-Man. How I've broken this down is to three simple topics, and that's going to be traversal, combat, and cinematics, and every game presently has those three things. So we're going to start with traversal, and I've broken down traversal into two categories. That's going to be core animations such as your walk, your run, and your idle animations, and additional animations. That would be anything, from contextual animations. Let's get right into it. So taking a look at Spider-Man's walk, most of the movement is happening in his upper torso, mainly the Y and the Z axis primarily. One thing I also noticed is that the arms don't move that far back in the contact pose. The forearms are mainly form a straight line down, which is not something we usually see in a walk cycle. Next up is that he's fairly upright throughout the walk. There's not that much movement happening in the X-axis. One thing I have to say is there's a beautiful overlap of the wrist that I notice. It's absolutely amazing. And there's a subtle hand animation as he opens slightly and then closes his hand. It's not really, I would say, stylized to, let's say, Web of Shadows or something like that. It's a very human walk. There are nice little touches throughout the animation, and it's very nicely done. So moving forward in the core animations, we're going to be looking at the run cycle. Most of the movement happening in the run cycle is actually in the Y-axis. Everything else fairly stays the same mostly. One thing I have to point out is that there's not twinning on the poses. So when he's running with his left arm going up, his left arm goes up slightly higher and has a little different arc pattern than his right arm. And that is something beautiful to see because it's so easily, to do, just to copy the poses and, and paste them. And when you see this happen, man, it's painful to see as an animator, but when you see twinning not happening, it brings a little life to it. It brings a little, so it's not so much of the same monotonous thing that you see time in and time again. So I love that this animator did that. One thing I noticed is that the moving of the root in run animations, this is something that is common, is that he moves it back during the down position and moves it forward during the push off. One thing I noticed on this is that he's not even twinning on this. So the root moves back slightly on the left leg, but moves even further back on the right leg, which really gives that great impact of favoring that right leg pushing off and give you that great contact pose, that superhero pose. There's also a great reversal when you get into the stop animation. So when you're running, and you let go of the trigger and it stops, there's a great reversal that happens to the body that you can tell, hey, he's stopped. Now, one small problem that I noticed in the run animation is that there seems to be a problem in the blending from the jog to the run. It seems that he goes down to honestly a squat position, which is a little awkward. It also looks like that there's some skipping happening, but other than that, the run animation, it's beautifully done. Nicely done in this game. So now we move to the last of the core animations, and that is going to be the idle animation. Now I have to say, unfortunately, this is going to be one of the weakest animations throughout this game. There's twinning going on in the arms and the head. You come across a few standard idle animations. He stretches out his hands, he checks his web shooters, he looks around, some body shifts here and there. There's nothing particularly bad about them. I just feel they could have injected more character into these idle animations. That's one of the main things you want to do in an idle animation, is that that special time for an animator to really display the character that you're seeing. One missed opportunity that I think they could have done was actually for him to check his phone, because throughout the game he's constantly on his phone, whether he's talking to MJ, or he's talking to Watanabe. He's constantly checking his phone. I think that would have been nice to have him check his phone, because it also shows that there's a certain level of urgency that that's how people contact him. But at the same time, he's, what is he, 20-something-year-old kid? So he's always going to be on his phone regardless. You're always going to have some type of screen in front of your face. Once again, there's nothing wrong with the animations they have. I just feel that, you could really, besides the web shooters, you could really switch out this character with, say, I don't know, let's say Nathan Drake or something, and there would be no difference. He would stretch his hands, some body shifts, other than, like I said, the web shooters. I think that's a missed opportunity there. Now guys, let's go on to the additional animations. And the first one here is going to be the wall crawling. The wall crawling is nicely done. It's not very hard to get a wall crawling animation, poorly done, but it's nicely done here. One thing I absolutely love, and I have to say, is that the torso moves and the body follows. It's really organic and absolutely natural. Now, one little problem with the wall crawling animation is that the turning of the corner is a little funky, I happen to notice. But other than that, the wall crawling is nicely done. Next up, we're going to be tackling the wall run. Most movement we have seen in any of the animes is actually going to be in the wall run. His arms actually move, and it's the only time his forearms move past the body. There's a lot of movement happening in his upper body, and it's a lot of movement happening with his arms. There's a great line of action showing a change of direction whenever you stop and choose to go the other way. It's really nicely done. A lot of movement here. And I guess you would have to have that movement since you're defying gravity as you're running across the wall. So, very nicely done. So last up on additional animations under traversal category, and that of course we can't forget, it's going to be the web swinging. Guys, I have to say this is some of the best animation I have seen in a game. I love how they incorporate, iconic poses from the comics and the movies into the web swinging. I mean, every movement is a picture, and literally, if you can take into account photo mode. There's a great squash and stretch when you land on a light post or an antenna that takes place. There's actually this one great move in web swinging in which he's swinging with one hand and he lets go and catches it with the other as he spins around. It's a spectacular animation, and you really have to look at it closely to see what's going on. I had to go frame by frame to actually see, wow, that's that's an intricate animation to have while also being responsive to the player. Now, my favorite animation is going to be when you swing a little close to a ledge, Spider-Man actually shoots a web down and keeps you going forward. Now, I've only experienced this 2 times while playing, and luckily I happened to catch it while I was recording, but it's so nicely done and it's so smooth how it blends into that. I mean, it's honestly breathtaking just looking at some of the web swinging animation and the angles, because everything just looks good from all angles. All right, guys, we're going to be going towards the next category, and that's going to be combat. Under combat, I'm just going to be looking at the basic combo because there's a lot of combat animations in this game, and they're all superbly done. So we're just going to break it down to the basic combo that you learn in the game. Now, surprisingly in this combo, there are no punches. That's one thing that caught me off guard. I was like, oh, okay, no punches. It's all kicks, no punches. One thing I do like in the combo is that the ending kick is different sometimes. Sometimes he does, 2 feet kick, and another time he does a really nice, really great silhouette to it. It's a 1 kick that he does. Great timing, great weight to the animations. It's a great combo. Now, the next category we're going to look underneath combat is going to be takedowns. I have to say, all the takedowns are nicely done. I have no complaints about the takedowns. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite takedowns out of all of them is going to be the punch finisher. And it's just because I love the camera work, I love the flow of the movement, and I absolutely love the final pose that he does when he kicks a guy in the face. It's beautifully done. All right, guys, we're slowly approaching the end, and this is going to be the last category, and that is going to be cinematics. How I've broken down cinematics is basically acting and action. So we're going to tackle acting first. The acting is phenomenal in these cinematics. So really great acting in the facial expressions, the body language is really greatly done. It's actually one of the scenes in the game was actually fixed. And it was the scene that I critiqued in one of my other videos, and it was the scene with Aunt May, which it seemed that she seemed concerned based off her facial animations. In the final game, she actually now looks like she's proud. And it's crazy how a subtle facial change can completely change the feel of the entire scene. And I want you guys to really take note to that, of every little thing that you do, because people are looking at this. And if you change the way the face looks, or you change the shape of the mouth, you have to take into account why you're doing it and what's really the feeling behind that scene that you want the audience to feel. Now, one thing I did find a little funky and out of place in the cinematics is towards the ending of the game, and it's this weird smile, like this little smirk that Norman Osborn does, and it kind of just feels out of place given with everything that's happening. I get that he's probably snickering that he still has beaten Doc Ock, but I think probably a subtle smile would have had a greater impact than like this weird little showing teeth and smirk thing that they had going on. So the last thing we're going to tackle under cinematics, and that's going to be the action. All the action scenes in the cinematics are beautifully done, I have to say. Now, one problem I had with one of the cinematic shots was actually the crane scene. In the crane scene, the problem I have is that Spider-Man feels a bit weightless. You have to understand that he's falling, you know, he's free falling all the way down to the ground, basically to his death. And he wakes up from being unconscious and he shoots a web. You don't get that feeling of him free falling and then tension of the web line catching him. It just feels weightless. And the next web shot after that feels weightless as well. I feel like they could have definitely tweaked that and fixed that in the final build of the game. Now, the last shot that I feel could have used some little TLC was actually the shot with the Scorpion. It's not that the animation is bad, it's just that the staging is a bit off. When I first saw it, I didn't know exactly what Spider-Man was trying to accomplish. I have to go frame by frame and see that he was trying to, I guess, kick off Scorpion's helmet. But you don't really get what he's doing. It's just this weird angle, and it's not really well staged. Other than that, the action scenes of the cinematics are very nicely done. Overall, guys, I have to say, I have to give the animation of this game, I would give it a 9 out of 10 because it's absolutely beautiful. There are a few things that could use some extra TLC, a little loving and care, a little spit shine. But other than that, it's beautifully done. Everything from the combat animations to the web swinging, it's honestly, it's cinematic. Some of these animations are just so nicely done and so beautifully blended together that they rival, I would say, some of the shots in the actual films that they were inspired from. Anyways, guys, that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'd be more than happy to go probably do another animation review of maybe Shadow of the Tomb Raider, or go back and do an animation review of God of War, or some other game titles that I've played and actually gotten my hands on. Either or, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe. And until next time, guys, keep animating.